Hey, what's going on? This is the Body Punch Podcast, and my name is Naz. Let's talk about UFC Fight Night, Overeem versus Volkov. Man, we got a fun one coming up this weekend with Alistair Overeem and Alexander Volkov fighting against each other. The number 5 versus the number 6 in the heavyweight division. Alistair Overeem having his illustrious career in the heavyweight division starting. He's the ultimate veteran when it comes to the heavyweight division. Alexander Volkov with his striking ability, with all of the new skills and stuff that he's adding to his repertoire. This is going to be a fun fight, and it's going to answer a lot of questions. I mean, if we look at the past fights, we have some overlapping fights that these guys have both had. And the striking display that I think we're going to see in this fight is going to be super high class. Alistair Overeem being one of the top strikers in the UFC heavyweight division, now being more calculated in his older age and taking the shots that he knows he's going to make and being able to stay at distance now and almost completely changing his game from the Overeem, the Ubereem that we knew. The guy that would be up close. He would always attack. He wouldn't let up at all. And then Alexander Volkov, with his background in striking and the power that he possesses and the length that he has, this is going to be a fun fight to watch. And not just these two guys. They're not the most interesting on the card. I think there's a bunch of interesting fights on this UFC Fight Night card. We got Cory Sandhagen versus Frankie Edgar. I mean, this bantamweight division in the UFC is turning out to be one of the most competitive. I would put it up there. I would say it's maybe top 3 most competitive weight classes in the UFC. And Cory Sandhagen being at number 2 and coming back from his fight against Aljamain Sterling to fight Frankie Edgar, who has proven to everybody that his style is able to be translated throughout the years. There's many people like Alistair Overeem, who's fighting on this card as well, that had to change up their style because of the new generation that's coming up. But Frankie Edgar has shown us that the wrestling style that he has, the wrestling heavy style, has lasted this long. And for him to be in 3 different weight divisions now, at 155, 145, and now 135. And he's here fighting the number 2 guy in the division. And himself, he's ranked number 4. And if he's able to pull this off against Cory Sandhagen, who just fought Aljamain Sterling, that would just be incredible. And I think he's already a Hall of Famer, but that just cements his place in the UFC Hall of Fame. So let's talk about the main event. The main event featuring Alistair Overeem and Alexander Volkov. Like I said, I think this is going to be an amazing, striking display for both of these fighters because of the tendencies that they've shown now. These guys are fighting in the heavyweight division, which I don't have to tell you guys, but it has dire consequences. You get hit by one shot that you're not paying attention. You have a lapse in concentration. And 1 second, your lights are out. And it's the same for these two guys. You see their past fights, and we're seeing this difference that both of these guys are showing. I talked about it at the beginning of the podcast, but Alistair Overeem is not the only one that's changing up his game, I think. For a long time, in my opinion, Alexander Volkov didn't really use the length that he has. He wasn't fighting like a guy that's taller than everybody else. But now, in his recent fights, he's showing that he's learning how to use that length, that reach. And I think it started with his comeback with Greg Hardy. But you saw glimpses of it when he fought Stefan Struve. He ended that one with TKO punches. That was in 2017. Then he fought Fabricio Verdum. He finished that one with KO punches. That one was in 2018. Then he fought Greg Hardy in 2019. Which I'm going to focus on this one. Because the fight that he had with Greg Hardy, even though a lot of people wrote him off at the beginning of his career, he's somewhat of an unknown. Yes, he's a guy that's very athletic. He's someone that can move quickly because of his football career. All of the stuff that he's learned over in football, some of it translates. But for Volkov to take on Greg Hardy was a big test. And it was a big kind of, and it was just, you think you're fighting the unknown at the time. And I think Volkov really exposed Greg Hardy. And it was just it was a great win for Volkov just to bump up his confidence. Then he lost to Curtis Blades by unanimous decision in 2020. And now, and then after that, he beat Walt Harris by TKO in the second round in 2020 in Abu Dhabi. That's a big win for him. Walt Harris is no joke. No joke at all. And for Volkov to take him out is something special, but it puts him back on the right track. I think that's what it is more. So let's talk about Alistair Overeem. This is a guy with an illustrious career. A guy that is just so, he's adapting to the time. I'm going to keep harping about this in this podcast. But Alistair Overeem is just adapting to the time. So let's start with the Francis Ngannou knockout. At the time, I remember Alistair Overeem was on somewhat of a run. He fought Stipe in 2016. Then he defeated Mark Hunt by knees in 2017. Then he beat Fabricio Verdum in 2017 as well. And then in 2017, he got knocked out by Francis Ngannou. That kind of derailed him a little bit. I mean, the Stipe loss derailed him a bit, but But even when he lost to Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight championship, you still saw that, okay, he's able to get to the championship level. He's able to get to the best of the best. But then when we saw him get knocked out so viciously by Francis Ngannou, I mean, that must have been a tough one. And I don't want to put too much on this, but all of the memes that were made about him, all of the stuff that he had to hear about him in the news, all of that stuff compiled. And it must have been super tough for Alistair Overeem to bounce back after getting his heavyweight championship chance, losing, then beating some Hall of Famers on their own, Fabricio Verdum and Mark Hunt, and then to get viciously knocked out in the first round by Francis Ngannou. Mind you, that shows you how great Stipe Miocic is. To take out Francis Ngannou and Alistair Overeem and DC, that shows you how great he is. But anyways, for him to get knocked out in that fashion by that type of devastating puncher, it was just crazy. And the thing is, we didn't know how he would react next. Then he fought Curtis Blades. He got TKO'd in the third round. Then after that, he got a couple wins by TKO, which put him back on the right track. One of them being Alexei Oleinik. That was a big win for him. And mind you, while he's going on all of this runs and everything, he keeps on wanting to get back to that title, even in his advanced age. He still wants to go after that belt. And then after the Oleinik fight, for him to get KO punched by Rosenstruck the way he did in the fifth round, in a fight that he was clearly winning, and to get his lip busted open the way that he did, for him to keep on making that run, keep on going at it, and then something like that happens, the mental fortitude of this guy is incredible. He keeps on going at it. When he gets knocked down, he comes back. But then that was a super tough one. It reminded me of the Francis Ngannou knockout. We were all like, what would happen to this guy next? Then he fought Walt Harris, defeated him by TKO punches in 2020. Then he beat Augusto Sakai by TKO elbows and punches in 2020. And now we have this fight with Volkov. This is going to show us if these two are able to make it to the UFC championship. Will these guys be able to make another run? The heavyweight division is so interesting because in other weight classes, you have to go on a pretty long run until you can fight for the belt. In the heavyweight division, this was never an issue. You saw guys that only had 2-3 wins, maybe a little bit more than that, but a couple wins fighting for the belt because of how easily you can get knocked out. I remember when Stipe got the all-time wins while having the UFC heavyweight belt. And I don't remember the exact number, but it was something super low. And it was so mind-boggling to me that you can only hold the belt for that long. Even look at Stipe. He gets knocked out by that punch from DC. And before that, getting battered by Francis Ngannou. Still winning that fight, but taking the injuries from that fight. And I don't think that helped him at all in the fight that he had with DC. Then getting knocked out and then regaining the belt. But that shows you how tough the division is. They called it the baddest man in the world for a reason, because how big these guys are and how much power they have. So at the beginning, I said that this is going to be an amazing striking exchange from these two guys. I totally believe that. I think that this fight, with the style that they're fighting at, both of these guys, the way that they're fighting, is just going to make for an interesting matchup. It's going to be a fun fight. And this is a sneaky good card, man. It's good. For UFC Fight Night and for having the UFC take another week off, this is really well. I'm anticipating it highly because, like I said, Cory Sandhagen facing Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar, this means a lot to him. This means a lot to Cory Sandhagen. To take a loss like that and then to come back against a legend, that would be an amazing story. For Frankie Edgar to win, that would be crazy. That'd be crazy. And it just makes you ask the question, maybe he should have done it sooner. But maybe this is just the way that it's got to play out. Maybe the experience that he gained at the higher weight divisions is helping him in the 145, is helping him in the 135. I remember his mentality on why he didn't want to go down in weight was he didn't want people to think that just because you're small, you're not able to do the things that bigger people are able to do. He always liked that aspect. He didn't like cutting the weight to 135. But even at 135, you got guys like Cory Sandhagen who cut a crazy amount of weight. Cory Sandhagen is a big guy. He's not massive, but he's a big dude for 135. I mean, the guy used to play basketball. He's a really good basketball player. And now he's cutting down to 135. So you still got big dudes at this weight division. So that's going to be an exciting fight. Super. I'm pumped for that one. We got Cody Stamann. We got Diego Ferreira. We got Dariush. Dariush is always going to be exciting. So both of those guys are going to put on a show. And then for the prelims, we have Michael Johnson and Clay Guida. You know those guys are just going to go after each other. So this is a fun UFC Fight Night card. I'm excited for it. The thing is that we got a lineup going on in the heavyweight division. I don't think if one of them wins this fight, if they're going to get a title shot right away, because we still need to see Francis and Stipe too, because Francis deserved the belt. Then we got to see John Jones, who he's going to fight. All sources are saying that he's going to fight the winner of Francis and Stipe. But who knows? So we got to figure out that part out. And then these guys might have a chance. But they got to get another win, in my opinion. But to see two legends in the heavyweight division go after each other, and to see which way their career goes, because this is at a point for both of these guys. This is a must-win situation for both of them. I mean, every fight is a must-win situation. And it's not like if you lose, you're going to get kicked out of the UFC or anything. But these two guys, they know this is going to push them in the right or the wrong trajectory for the heavyweight belt. So this is going to be a fun fight. I appreciate you guys listening to this podcast. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. If you guys could like, share, and subscribe and hit the bell notification on YouTube, that would be awesome. And then can you also listen to the podcast on the different podcast networks? That'd be really appreciated. Like I said, I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to listen to this podcast and listen to me talk about these great fighters. I really appreciate it. This has been the Body Punch Podcast. My name is Naz. Bye.